Episode 152. Doubt has killed more dreams than failure ever will.
You're listening to the very best podcast in the world on health, wealth, and happiness. Please remember to leave a review and share with all your friends and family. And here is your host, Lars Hilser.
What's up, pussycats? Welcome to Totally New Tuesday on the very best podcast in the world, your only source in the universe for personal supremacy through health, wealth, and motherfucking happiness. Be happy already, because there's no reason not to, really. Anywho, yesterday, in addition, the leadership thing that I said, I got inquiries about, is that the only thing? No, no, it's not. There was just one example, pars pro toto, that was that came to my mind when I read this interesting quote. I think it was by Zig Ziglar, a very good motivational leadership. I don't know if I would necessarily say leadership, but at least he's got a lot of very good motivational content. There we go. And I think his son is stepping into his footsteps. And there we go. And he's doing a pretty decent job as well. So anywho, check them out. No, it's by far not the only requirement for leadership. There are many different characteristics and details. I think we even went over some more of them in a previous episode. I forgot the number, but look it up. There is a search bar in your favorite podcast majigger service. Check that out and see about that for yourself, because I forgot. Sorry. Anyhow, today we're going to talk about dreams and how to kill them. And the best way to do that is by being doubtful. Now, there was an interesting quote I came across really a long time ago, but it kind of stuck. And it was along the lines of, if your dreams are not scary enough, they're not big enough. And I think, having grown up in the United States for parts of my life, in my teenage years, very formative years, you get kind of like a cultural imprint upon you. No, I'm not talking about going there on vacation and seeing how nice everything. I'm, interacting with people day by day, and only going home for vacation, something along those lines. So you get like a cultural imprint. And one of the things that kind of always struck me when I came back, and I've repeatedly mentioned it on the podcast, is this mentality of go big or go home, right? And, it's kind of like that. It's going to get you a lot of slaps on the cheek in different cultures, because it's very difficult to convey a different culture to someone that hasn't been exposed to it, right? And this was not really pre-internet. It was kind of like in the starting days of the internet that we kind of came back to return to Europe, where I was born and raised, except for those formative years that I just mentioned. And I went to my friends who had become totally different people. I mean, like, entirely, right? Not that they had, changed, but it was like, wow, how have you not grown in this time? How are you still the same? And I don't mean this in a condescending way. It was difficult for me to grasp, to explain to them cultural things that I can't think really of one example. But it was like trying to convey that to them was insanely difficult. So, anyhow, years progressed, years went on, and I started, continued on my school roller coaster ride. Some the formative years. And I was a pretty clever cookie and did get one or the other certificate certifying that. And anyhow, the school wasn't really interesting because, there were drugs and alcohol and girls and all kinds of interesting other shit that was way more interesting than going into a school system where if you had the solution, but the way of getting there wasn't the way you were taught, you were wrong. And I was like, no, this is pretty fucking IO, right? Here's the problem. I got a solution. If it had been the other way around, it's like, yeah, okay, solving a math problem in, I think, a lot of European school systems. I think it's not only Germany, but it's like, if the way of getting to the solution is wrong, the solution is wrong. And you're like, wait, I couldn't compute that. So anyway, I gave up on schooling, and schooling in return gave up on me. And this, interesting roller coaster ride started to happen, and I was bored, and school couldn't really convey to me what I needed in life. And anywho, I then, started to contemplate what I was going to do, because smoking several grams of weed per day and, drinking heavily and, being promiscuous, weren't really career ladders. I spent pretty much all day on the computer doing mischievous shit. And, anywho, this interesting kind of lifestyle developed, which I needed to get out of. I understood that because earning money was kind of like a thing. So anywho, went into the financial sector, got my degree there. It was bestowed upon a large amount of responsibility by managing assets of other people, amongst other things. And, with this responsibility came kind of like, okay, I'm not really making enough money here. What are my prospects? I had a girlfriend at the time, and she wanted the tree house kid family thing. I was anything but ready for that. So we kind of went different directions. And then I started to really think about, okay, what are you going to do now that you have, hardly any responsibilities left? Well, except for, the other ones, not like the really important ones like family and stuff. No, the less important ones. And then I started to go like, okay, you're going to go international. That's the advent of the social networks that kind of came about, and, interesting shit started to happen there. All of a sudden, you could do international business like at the touch of a button. And I started my first company, and very much to the dismay of my surroundings. They were like, yeah, but think of all of the shit that could possibly go wrong. And I was like, yeah, I did. Thank you very much. But I have really not a lot to lose, but money. And, what the fuck should I be worried about? Right. So I started my first company way ahead of its time in regards to web design. It was a lot about resize and anyhow, very technical. And it was a very difficult pitch, to sell to people. And, I had received hours and hours and hours in sales training. So I was a pretty good salesperson, and was very, very, very interested as a result of the sales trainings and things like NLP and hypnosis and the human mind and how it works and functions and how people kind of fuck up and why they do, and, that kind of ordeal, and, why people are limited by their thoughts. And it was actually, I kind of turned this bad karma around, right? So it wasn't about the failure anymore. It was about the doubts of the others, and they would fucking fuel me, right? Somebody came up, one of my best friends came up and it's gotta be Amazon and, all of the prestigious clients that I had. And it was like, well, why can't you do something local? And I'm like, well, I do, but they're not fucking ready for it. And that's kind of like the thing which kind of where I turned the negative karma into positive energy. I was like, and it wasn't that they weren't, that they didn't want me to be successful. It was just that they couldn't contemplate that you could, as a boy from buttfuck Germany. Well, meanwhile, I was growing a beard. So kudos to me. But it was very difficult for them to comprehend that someone from, little town buttfuck Germany could all of a sudden play with the big guys and have matured ideas that could bring Fortune 500 organizations forward. Right? So, had I given in to the doubt, all of my dreams, right? All of my dreams of financial independence, of selling my ideas because the ideas that the others were having and executing were kind of shitty, to be very diplomatic. They were pretty much clusterfucks, and all of them. And moving the world forward with my ideas, moving the internet forward, the gearbox of the world at the time, and even today more so. That was my vision. That was my dream. I couldn't really put it into, I want to help you achieve this. It was developing strategies to make the internet a better and safer fucking place for all humankind to be closer together, to make use of the global village character that it was once called. And I think the input that I gave touched pretty much every internet user. Some of the stuff that I worked on with these organizations that I worked with. So even you have probably come across, one of the ideas that I kind of thought of and then eventually published and executed. So those were my humble dreams. And yes, I could have failed on them. And I was very, very close multiple times. Especially when I started my first company. There were times when there was no fucking food in the fridge and I had no fucking idea where to get food from. And that's very important to understand. But from failure, you can recover. If you start to eat the doubt that other people feed you, then you're definitely going to fail, because you're going to approach your dreams with a negative mindset, which will eventually intoxicate you and your thoughts and your beliefs. And that will be a guarantee for failure. So, I think I forgot the housekeeping at the beginning. I wanted to bug you every single episode. So, anyone that's got dreams and is running into people that are doubtful, right? Go fuck them and share this episode with them, right? This is a very interesting, probably closing remark. I had a discussion with my father many years ago when I started my web design firm. This must be, I don't know, very early 2000s. And he was like, yeah, but everybody's trying, and how do you differentiate? And I said, or how are you going to succeed? That was his core question. And I was like, well, the Wright brothers did so as well, and they changed the fucking world. So why shouldn't I be able to? So anyway, long story short, don't let doubt get in the way of your dreams, because then they will fail. But always follow and pursue your dreams regardless of what others say. Master level is when you actually turn these doubts into fuel for your dreams or your pursuit of them. in that motherfucking sense, I hope that you have a successful rest of your Tuesday. And if it's just beginning, have a very successful Tuesday. And if you're east of me, you're probably going to be closing your Tuesday or something. So, have a good night. Leave your hands above the blanket. I am going to be speaking to you again tomorrow on Wednesday when we're going to talk about 10 ways to go broke on hump day. So in that sense, peace out. Have a good day. Be safe, and we'll be in touch tomorrow.